What's up, everybody? Welcome to McWater's Effect. And today I'm going to be checking out this video with Ben Shapiro. He went on CNN, Jake Tapper's show, to talk about Kevin Roberts from the Heritage Foundation, who got involved with the spat between him and Tucker Carlson. And also, he went on here pretty much, in my opinion, try to cancel Tucker Carlson. And let's just say I think the woke right is actually real. I didn't believe it was real, but it's obviously real with people like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin trying to cancel people because they disagree with their ideas. But guys, before we get into it, please hit that like button, comment, and share this out to everybody.
I think that Kevin really screwed things up last week when he decided to inject himself into this controversy with his.
Kevin is Kevin Roberts. He's the leader of the Heritage Foundation.
Vociferous defense that contains some rather charged language. I think he's doing the right thing by pointing out the obvious, which is that if somebody glosses Nazis on the air, that person probably should not be associated with a conservative think tank, and that everyone should have a duty to say that that is a bad thing to do. So I'm grateful to Kevin for doing that. I think it's a very good thing that he did that. The real issue here is I think that Tucker Carlson's morphing from, I would say, a very edgy right-wing political figure on Fox News, but certainly within the mainstream, into a conspiracist, a person who ideologically launders anti-Semitism, who ideologically launders all sorts of anti-Americanism on his show, and then airs it for the public to hear with interviews like the ones he did with Nick Fuentes, which was essentially a massage of Nick Fuentes. You know,
all right. Right there, a massage of Nick Fuentes. Look, Ben Shapiro right there, he was indicating a sexual aspect to that. And y'all know what he meant by it. And, I could also do the same thing when it comes to his interview with Bibi Netanyahu, and how he didn't ask him hard questions and he didn't press him on anything that was important, such as the Greater Israel Project, or even how they have destroyed almost all of Gaza. But at the same time, they had these extremely effective operations, not only in Iran, but also against Hezbollah, where they could actually go after the people they wanted to go after without going after civilians. So there's a conflict there. Why can't you have done that also in Gaza with Hamas? And of course, we don't get answers to that. But of course, Ben Shapiro had him on there, and what did he do? He did the same thing that supposedly Tucker Carlson did to Nick Fuentes. He just gave him a rub down and then sent him on his way.
I think that took a lot of people by surprise, probably including Kevin.
The Washington Free Beacon obtained and posted video of yesterday's Heritage Foundation staff meeting where Roberts apologized for how he's handled Tucker's conversation with Nick Fuentes. Here's part of what Roberts had to say.
I didn't know much about this Fuentes guy. I still don't, which underscores the mistake. I can tell you with a clear conscience and not making any excuses that those were my intentions, to fix all of that. And obviously I didn't. I made them worse.
We reached out to the Heritage Foundation for comment about the video. We were referred to Kevin Roberts' social media post from yesterday. What's your reaction? And let me just note that Nick Fuentes has been fairly notorious for years now, including when he dined with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
I mean, I think that's true, but I think that really in order to experience the full wonders of the Nick Fuentes catalog, you really do have to spend some time going through the receipts. I did that earlier this week on my show. And the truth is...
Well, if you did that, you would have saw that Tucker Carlson pushed against him when it comes to anti-Semitism. Of course, he doesn't even give Tucker Carlson any kind of kudos for doing so. And he used biblical principles, something that Fuentes understands of reason why you shouldn't use anti-Semitic tropes towards people like that. And, Ben Shapiro, the fact is, Nick Fuentes, he's ascended. He's become more mainstream for some reason. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of him, but at all. I don't really watch his content all that much. Unless someone actually makes a video about it, then I see it. I don't go to Rumble and check it out. But on Rumble, by what I've heard, he gets anywhere from 300 to 400,000 people to watch him every time he does a live. So he obviously has an audience. So the idea that someone like Tucker Carlson or someone else shouldn't be platforming him. The thing is, there's a good chance he might be actually platforming them because he might actually have a bigger audience.
Is that most people don't watch politics all that granularly. Even people who are in politics don't spend a lot of time on sort of the fringe edgelord right, the way that Fuentes is. And so the sort of mainstreaming, the popularization and normalization of Fuentes by Carlson is significantly more important than just Fuentes' existence, obviously. It was a seminal moment, I think, when it comes to the right's decision as to whether Tucker himself is a source of truth or whether he is a destructive force inside conservatism.
So one of the things you've noted is that it isn't so much, your problem isn't so much that Tucker Carlson had Fuentes on his show, but that he didn't push back at all on the neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic, pro-Joseph Stalin rhetoric, et cetera. I just wonder, last week at a Turning Point event, Vice President J.D. Vance was asked by a student about an anti-Semitic falsehood, this crazy notion that Judaism openly supports the persecution of Christians. It's not true. But J.D. Vance was asked about it. Instead of pushing back or correcting the questioner, he said this.
There are some significant theological disagreements between Christians and Jews. My attitude is, let's have those conversations. Let's have those disagreements when we have them. But if there are shared areas of interest, we ought to be willing to do that too.
What did you think of that?
Obviously in a vacuum, I think that answer is fine. I think his response to the question, which was asked, as you say, in a tremendously anti-Semitic way, the idea that Jews are persecutors of Christians is an absurd contention. Obviously, I would have preferred more from the vice president, but I think the broader problem here is, again, that you have an enormous number of young people who are engaging with true white supremacist, anti-Jew content and are taken in by it, and there do need to be more voices pushing back on that.
Ben Shapiro, we thank you for your voice. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Now, look, I don't disagree with them that there's a lot of anti-Semitic information out there. Nick Fuentes is a perfect example. I don't disagree with that. But the thing is, when you have an idea out there in the interwebs, it's hard to kill it. You know what I'm saying? And there's only several ways you can do it. Number one, I think the best way to do it is actually confronting it and actually debating the issue. And unfortunately, Ben Shapiro won't debate the issue with Tucker Carlson when it comes to his interview with Nick Fuentes or Nick Fuentes himself. And neither will Mark Levin. Now, do I think Tucker Carlson is anti-Semitic? No. I think he's actually very critical of Israel, as I am. There's nothing anti-Semitic about that. That's like saying if I'm critical of the United States, I'm anti-American. I'm not. I'm just critical of the government itself. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's a lot of people, including Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, that try to conflate the two. I'm sorry, but it's okay to criticize the government. It's not okay to be anti-Semitic. I think a lot of things that Ben does, he hurts himself when he's best off to just confront it, have the conversation, and go from there. And the last thing I have to say about Ben Shapiro is my problem with him is, I indicated that he was woke right. He is. And the reason I say that is because his biggest part of his identity is being Jewish. And don't get me wrong, it's important. But the thing is, my biggest part of me is not being an Irish or Scottish or German. My biggest part of my identity is being an American. And that's the difference between me and him. Now, don't get me wrong. Should you be proud of your background? Absolutely. You should be, no matter what your background is. But whenever you emphasize that all the time, try to shut down conversation and call people anti-Semitic or so on and so forth, what you're doing is actually trying to squash free speech. And that's what I don't like about it. But guys, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. Please hit that like button, comment, and share this out to everybody.